All right, so this is what you all needed to know. Less than 3 months after being traded away from the Bears, Brandon Marshall and the Jets have reworked his deal. It increases the total value of his contract from just over $24 to $26 million. It also includes an additional $1.3 million in guarantees. How much pressure, Stephen A., is on Brandon Marshall with the new contract?
I would tell you there's some pressure, Skip. And the reason I say that is because the New York Jets had the worst passing attack in the entire NFL last year. This year they got a new quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick. You still got Geno there. I like Bryce Petty. I think that this guy is going to make some noise. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. I think that, you know, Chan Gailey comes out. He's your new offensive coordinator. He says to you, Geno Smith is the guy. Todd Bowles essentially says, hold on now. It's going to be a competition. You're going to have a chance to compete. I think that's because Bryce Petty is impressed, and we'll see what happens. But in the end, we all know about, you know, quarterbacks coming out of Baylor, and some people sit there and say they don't know how well they'll do on the next level, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't want to knock them at all because I think they've got potential. I guess I'm looking at it from this perspective. You're Brandon Marshall. You're coming off a 5-11 season in Chicago with Jay Cutler, your buddy, who you swore by, who everybody else and their grandmother knows is no leader.
Then last
you
year
understand?
I swore at.
That's right, and you swore at.
You got done
and
with
Brandon
you
Marshall was the one that stood by him, okay? So now you're out of Chicago, thank the good Lord, because whether you know it or not, Brandon Marshall, it was good for you. It's the best thing for you to get rid of Jay Cutler so you can no longer be contaminated. I'm convinced that that rib injury that Brandon Marshall suffered at the hands of the Cowboys, right, that ultimately put him out for the rest of the season. I'm convinced that was just that was karma. That was good luck because the football god said, "Let's get you away from Jay Cutler for good. Let's do that." Okay. So now you're in a different situation, and obviously Geno Smith is no Jay Cutler, and we understand that. But we don't even know if Geno's going to be the guy. It could be Ryan Fitzpatrick. It could be somebody else. In the end, to me, Brandon Marshall, this is an opportunity for him in the New York market to reestablish himself as a #1 wideout. He wasn't even, you know, the top 2 receiver for the Chicago Bears last year. It was Alshon Jeffries that did it. Was Martellus Bennett at tight end. They have more receptions than him. They have more yards than him. Now, granted, he only played in 13 games. He's out the last 3. But my point is, even before then, the Chicago Bears looked like straight garbage. So because of that, the fact that you are now in New York City, the media capital of the world, you got Todd Bowles, a new coach with a lot of promise. You know, McCagnon, the new GM, making moves. I mean, they got Darrelle Revis. They got Antonio Cromartie. They reunited that secondary, okay? You got Milliner, who was your #1 corner. Now he's 3rd, basically, and he's coming in for you. Then you retained David Harris. You still got Richardson. You still got Copeland. You still got Muhammad Wilkerson. You drafted Williams, okay? So your defense is expected to be elite. Offensively, you still got Blau Powell. You got who was it? Ridley that you got from the New England Patriots. So I'm just looking at them, and I'm saying to myself, Zach Stacy from St. Louis as well, Vanderbilt. But also now you take Eric Decker, all right, there was an APB out for him last year. We couldn't find for the whole year because he was missing from the time of the Super Bowl. We knew he was at the Super Bowl when Denver played Seattle because he was interviewed before the game, and there was a tweet after the game, so there was evidence that he was there, but we couldn't find him for those 60 minutes. Last year, still hadn't recovered, still an APB out for him. But now that he's the #2 receiver, I believe we'll be able to find him now. Okay, so the combination
and now
of
they
all
have Devin Smith from
Ohio
State is a 3.
So now you got all of that. Now you got all of that. All to me, the 2 question marks are your quarterback spot, which is the most important one, because it doesn't matter who Brandon Marshall or anybody else, what they bring to the table. If the quarterback can't throw, it's nothing. You can't help him. But the key thing is #1 on the list is your quarterback.
Right.
But #2 is Brandon Marshall ready to reestablish himself as a #1 receiver for a franchise in the National Football League? I believe he is, but we got to see.
So you use this question as just a nice way to get back at Jay Cutler, right? It was just like to tee you up to take a shot backward at Jay Cutler.
You know, I sort of resent the notion that I'm taking shots at Jay Cutler. I'm not taking shots at Jay Cutler. I'm not taking shots at Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler takes shots at himself because the only time we've seen him smile or look remotely something other than depressed was when he was signing a contract for that fat dollars that he didn't deserve. It's a crime line that Jay Cutler, what is he going to be, $25 million?
He's got a lot of money.
$25 million?
David, how much
They're
money?
going forward.
Let's see.
Yep. I mean,
Who's his agent?
He got franchise.
Give him, man. He's like, I'm gonna talk about him the way I talk about Henry Thomas for Chris Bosh.
I think Bus Cook is.
He should cook. Cook Thanksgiving dinner for his agent. Should buy him Christmas gifts.
Cook for
Find
cook.
out how much
right?
money he has.
So, just point of order here. You wouldn't have said that the Chicago Bears were straight garbage in that second Sunday night game. Remember, at San Francisco when Cutler hit, I believe, Brandon Marshall for 3 second-half touchdowns, and they pulled off, to that point, the upset of the year in the National Football League.
No, there are moments.
There were moments. And then the big controversy in Chicago was that Cutler featured Brandon Marshall too much, that he constantly looked for Brandon Marshall instead of involving the other players. So last year's big new motivation was look for the other receivers. Just for the point of order, defending the great Jay Cutler the way I do.
After swearing at him last year, right? Go ahead. Inconsistencies did, Skip Bayless, but go ahead.
I don't see any pressure on Brandon this year because he is in a sweet situation in which he is about to play offense for a team that's going to have the best defense in the National Football League.
Then why would there be no pressure?
Okay. Well, I don't think anybody's going to look to him to light it up or save the day. They're going
to look to him to produce because the defense is going to come through for you.
They're going to run the football.
Well, I'm just
like
saying,
crazy.
but he's got to listen. Man, you need a #1 receiver, Skip Bayless.
But look. They'll probably start Ryan Fitzpatrick. Now, I'm a big Bryce Petty guy, and I love Sal Powell's report on Mike and Mike this morning, Sal Paolantonio.
Yeah.
He's talking about the rookie symposium and how impressive that Bryce Petty has been as a leader and a presence and charisma.
Don't you know you're supposed to love all of Sal Paolantonio's reports?
I know, I'm just saying.
He's big time.
Okay, well, so is Bryce Petty. And I cannot believe that Bryce Petty wasn't in the mix to be the second quarterback taken in the draft over Mariota. That's just me. So this was a steal of a steal here for the New York Football Jets. My point is, he's just a little too raw coming out of Baylor to expect him to be the starting quarterback right away. But I think Fitzpatrick will be the starting quarterback, and I think they won't throw it more than I don't know, 15, 17 times a game.
All I'm trying to say is that, look, man, you got to lead there. First of all, they're going to have an opportunity to throw it more than that in a game because the defense is going to be forcing folks into 3 and out, so they'll have more offensive possessions, which means that your offense got to capitalize on it, Skip. They got to do something, and Brandon Marshall's going to be a key component of that. Yeah. Period.
But I don't think you'll be sitting up in the press box saying, "Okay, show me something here, Big B."
No, I'm just saying he's got to reserve. If I'm talking about Brandon Marshall, the Brandon Marshall we know. Do you want to just go along to get along, or do you want to reestablish yourself as an elite presence in the National Football League?
Now, before we get out of here, Stephen, you asked how much Cutler was getting paid. He has $54 million guaranteed.
Oh, good Lord!
$126 million over 7 years.
Criminal.
$54 million guaranteed.
I'm telling you, the Chicago PD should sit there and arrest him right now for theft. I mean, you've got to be Jay Cutler, $54 million.
But the new regime came in,
Lord.
And they committed
the new regime
to Jay Cutler.
Listen.
Because you know what? Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
You're
How are you going to replace him?
You're right.
With whom?
I got you. That's a good point. I'm not knocking it from that. It's just sickening. I mean, I like McCaskey and all. I like some of the decisions that he made and the way he reversed them and, the position. We all understand that with Ray McDonald. But good Lord, how could he okay that? That's just disgusting. Jay Cutler? $54 million?
Best arm in the National Football League.